I had just finished another grueling shift at the clinic and was finally home. My back was aching, that dull, constant pain that never fully goes away. I collapsed onto the couch, grateful for the quiet, the stillness, the kind of silence that lets your body reset. I was about to pull a heating pad over my shoulders when the phone buzzed. I glanced at the screen. Rachel. I sighed before answering. It wasn't that I didn't love my sister, but she never called unless she needed something. "Hey, Em," she said, her voice already tinged with urgency. "I need a huge favor." I shifted uncomfortably, trying to adjust my back against the couch. "What's going on?" "I'm in a bind. I need you to watch the kids this weekend, both of them. It's an emergency." An emergency? She never said that unless it was something serious. But then again, she was the queen of emergencies that only seemed to pop up when it was convenient for her. "Rachel?" I hesitated, rubbing my lower back. "I've got a medical appointment for my back on Friday. It's been scheduled for months. I can't really miss it." She brushed it off like it was nothing. "You can reschedule, right? You know how important this is. The kids are a handful, and I don't have anyone else to ask." I felt a familiar wave of resentment build in my chest. She never had anyone else to ask. It was always me. "I can't. This appointment is really important," I said, voice flat, trying to be firm. "I've already been putting it off." Rachel went quiet for a second, then her voice dropped into that familiar manipulative tone. "You know, I could really use some help for once. You're my sister, Em, but I guess you're too busy with your important stuff." That stung. It was like a punch to the gut, but I stood my ground. "I'm not saying I don't want to help, but I can't do it this time." A long pause. Then, like she always did when she didn't get her way, she snapped, "You know what? Never mind. I don't know why I bother asking. It's always the same with you." I swallowed, feeling that sting deepen, the familiar guilt creeping in. "I can't, Rachel. I'm sorry." Before I could say anything else, she hung up. I sat there, holding the phone, the bitter taste of betrayal sour in my mouth. It wasn't the first time she'd used guilt like a weapon, and I knew it wouldn't be the last. But this time, it hurt more than usual. I sat there, phone still in my hand, staring at the screen. My mind was racing, running through all the times I'd put my life on hold for Rachel. Like the time I missed my friend Claire's birthday party because Rachel's car broke down, and I had to drive an hour out of my way to pick her up. Or when I skipped an entire weekend trip to visit my dad because Rachel needed me to babysit while she had a thing with her friends. It was always like that with her. I felt my jaw tighten. How many times had I rearranged my life for her? How many times had I been there to help, to pick up the pieces when she needed it? But when I asked for one small thing, just to keep my back appointment, she acted like it was the end of the world. The buzzing started up again. I glanced down, and there it was. Text after text from Rachel, her angry words lighting up the screen. "You're so selfish, Emily. You're always too busy when I need you. You think you're the only one with problems? Must be nice to get to put yourself first for once. I really thought you'd be there for me. Must be nice to have your health appointment all figured out while I'm left to deal with everything on my own. You're just like everyone else, only out for yourself." I stared at the screen, her words stabbing deeper each time I read them. Selfish. Out for yourself. I couldn't even remember how many times I'd done everything for her, with no thanks, no acknowledgement. I'd paid for her groceries when she didn't have enough, covered her bills when she went overboard on shopping, and dropped everything when she needed someone to pick up the slack. But now I was the bad guy because I wanted to keep my appointment. The phone buzzed again. Another text from her, this time something that hit harder than the rest. "I knew you wouldn't help. You've never cared about me. It's always been about you, hasn't it?" I felt a knot in my chest. There it was, the accusation. I couldn't breathe for a second. Was that what she thought? Had I really never mattered to her? I wasn't just a sister, not really. I was her safety net. I'd always been there, no questions asked. And yet, somehow, it was never enough. The phone buzzed again. Then my mother called. "Emily, what's going on with you and Rachel? She's really upset," my mom said, the disappointment in her voice thick. "She told me you wouldn't help. I don't understand why you couldn't just help her out this once. She's in a tough spot." I closed my eyes, feeling a heavy sigh force its way out of my chest. "Mom, I told her I can't. I have an appointment. I've been putting it off for months, and I can't afford to miss it." "Well, Emily, sometimes you just have to sacrifice. You know Rachel needs help. and you can't keep putting your own needs first. I gripped the phone tighter, wanting to scream. I've sacrificed so much for her, Mom. You don't even know. It's always Emily, can you do this? Emily, can you cover for me? But when I need something, I'm the one who's being selfish. I'm done. She didn't respond for a long time, and I felt that sting again. I just, I don't know, Emily. I think you're being hard on her. Family is about helping each other. I let out a shaky breath. Yeah, well, family is supposed to help me too, right? She didn't have an answer to that. We hung up shortly after, and the house felt quieter somehow, more empty. I was alone with my thoughts. I could feel that familiar guilt creeping up, the one that made me second guess every decision, every word. I thought about texting Rachel, apologizing, telling her I'd changed my mind. But then I stopped. I'd done that before. Apologized, given in, only to end up right back where I started. I couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't keep pretending like everything I gave wasn't being drained from me, little by little, until there was nothing left. So I sat there, phone in hand, and made a decision. I wasn't going to apologize, not this time. I wasn't going to let her make me feel like the bad guy anymore. I didn't know why I thought going over to my mom's house was a good idea. Maybe I hoped for some kind of closure, or maybe I just wanted to see if Rachel had cooled off. Either way, I needed to see for myself what was happening, so I grabbed my keys and headed out. The drive there was longer than I remembered. The street seemed quieter, like the city itself was holding its breath. When I pulled up in front of my mom's house, it hit me that Rachel and her family had been living there for a while now. They'd taken over the whole place, but I never expected this. I tried the door, hand reaching for the handle like it was any other day, but it didn't turn. I frowned and tried again, just in case I hadn't twisted it right. Still nothing. Confused, I knocked. Twice. I heard footsteps inside, the sound heavy, familiar. Then I saw her, Rachel standing by the window, watching me. Her face was a blank mask, but I could see her eyes, cold and calculating. I knocked again. Rachel, open up, I said, voice shaking. She didn't move, didn't answer, just stared. The cold realization hit me all at once. She'd changed the locks. She'd locked me out of my own family's house. I stood there, frozen, staring at the door that had always been open, the door that I thought would always be a part of me, no matter what. But now it was nothing more than a barrier. I stood there for what felt like an eternity. The house felt alien, like it belonged to someone else. Not me, not us, just her. Why? I whispered, even though she couldn't hear me. Rachel didn't even flinch. She didn't answer, didn't move, just kept her eyes on me through the glass. It was a deliberate, cruel gesture. It was her way of showing me, in the most basic form, that I was no longer welcome. I turned away, legs unsteady, my heart pounding like I'd been sucker punched. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Every inch of my body screamed at me to turn around, to make her listen, to make her understand. But deep down, I already knew. She wasn't going to let me back in. Not anymore. I stumbled back to my car, feeling the weight of that locked door on my chest. I drove home in a daze, not really seeing the road, just replaying the scene over and over again in my head. By the time I got home, the full impact of what had happened settled over me, heavy and suffocating. I had always told myself that Rachel needed me, that I was just being a good sister, a good daughter. But now it was clear. She didn't need me. She never had. She'd used me, manipulated me, and I'd let her. That cold stare from the window, those eyes that had once been so full of shared memories, haunted me. It wasn't just about the door or the house. It was about everything. The years of favors, of sacrifices, of me always stepping in, always cleaning up after her. And in return, I got nothing. Not even a seat at the table when it came down to it. I collapsed onto my couch, the familiar ache in my back flaring up, but it was nothing compared to the pain of that betrayal. It wasn't just a locked door. It was the final blow. I had been living in this delusion, telling myself I was doing the right thing by supporting her. But Rachel didn't see me as a sister. She saw me as a tool, something to use when it suited her and discard when it didn't. I didn't cry. I didn't want to. But I felt the hurt like a punch to the gut, and for the first time, I let myself feel it fully. I had been used, not just by Rachel, but by the entire pattern I'd allowed to shape my life. I couldn't keep doing this. I couldn't keep letting Rachel dictate the terms of our relationship or let her make me feel like I owed her everything while she gave me nothing in return. I needed to make a change. I needed to protect myself. emotionally, financially, in every way. So I stood up and walked over to the kitchen, my hands shaking. I reached for my phone, my heart already racing as I prepared to take the first step toward cutting ties. The idea of it scared me, but it also felt like a breath of fresh air. For the first time in years, I was thinking about what I needed. And that thought, that tiny spark of self preservation, felt like the most powerful thing I'd felt in a long time. I sat down at my kitchen table, the old wooden surface cold under my fingertips. I didn't realize how hard I was gripping it until my knuckles started to ache. The house was too quiet, the silence pressing in on me. I couldn't shake the image of Rachel's eyes, cold and unmoving, staring at me from the window. I needed something to ground me, to distract me from the weight of the betrayal. So I grabbed the old folder sitting on the shelf above the fridge, the one I'd been avoiding for months. It was stuffed full: receipts, bills, old loan agreements, papers I had shoved in there, trying to forget what they represented, what they all added up to. I opened it slowly, the crinkling sound of the paper too loud in the stillness. I thumbed through the stack, seeing the names of credit card companies, the amounts Rachel had owed, and the dates when I'd paid them off, sometimes in full, sometimes just enough to keep the collectors from calling. It hit me all at once, that nagging feeling I'd always ignored. I had been the one to cover for Rachel, always. There was the receipt from the furniture store, the one where I bought her that couch after she had messed up her finances again, and the stack of bills for utilities she'd let pile up because she just couldn't deal with it. I'd paid those too, of course. I even paid for her car repair that one time when she didn't have the money after she'd spent it all on a new phone. It wasn't just money. There was time, emotional energy. I closed my eyes, seeing every single time I had dropped everything, missed a night out, ignored my own problems, put off things I needed to do, just to help her, just to keep her life from falling apart. And every time, she'd told me how grateful she was, how much she needed me. But I never got that in return. What did I get? The cold stare, the locked door, the silence. I flicked through more receipts, more bills. The pile kept growing, a mountain of everything I'd given, all without a second thought. My chest tightened as I realized how long I'd been doing this, how long I'd been enabling her to live in chaos while I tried to fix everything. I could feel the anger building. I was tired. Tired of being her backup, her safety net. Tired of letting her think she could just call me, demand my time, my money, my energy, and I'd always be there to clean up her mess. I wasn't her lifeline anymore. I took a deep breath, sitting back in my chair, the folder still open in front of me. It felt like the first time in a long time I could breathe, like a heavy weight had been lifted. Maybe it was the realization that I didn't have to keep this up. Maybe it was the idea that I could actually stop enabling her, stop letting her make me feel responsible for her mistakes. I had been complicit in this. I had let her use me, and I had done it willingly, thinking that if I just kept helping, things would get better. But now I saw the truth. Rachel wasn't the problem. I was. I had let her manipulate me into believing I had no choice but to give, to be the one who sacrificed. I swallowed hard, the sadness settling in like a stone in my gut. There was anger too. Anger at myself for falling into the same cycle over and over, always putting Rachel first. But there was something else too, something unexpected: empowerment. I didn't have to do this anymore. I didn't have to be the helper. I could stop now. And I would. I closed the folder, finally letting it go, feeling the weight of all those years of helping fall off my shoulders. It wasn't my job to fix Rachel's life. It wasn't my responsibility to make sure she didn't drown in her own mistakes. I had done enough. Now it was time for me to start living my own life, to protect myself from the damage I had allowed for far too long. I stood up and walked over to the trash can, holding the folder in my hand. I thought for a moment, and then I threw it away. Everything. All of it. Every reminder of what I had given. It felt like letting go of a weight I didn't even realize I was carrying. The next morning, I woke up with a clear, sharp sense of purpose. I didn't hesitate. I called a lawyer. Mr. Lawrence's office was in a sleek building downtown, the kind of place that made me feel like I was playing at being an adult. But I pushed that thought aside as I sat in the waiting room, gripping my purse tightly in my lap. The reality of what I was doing hadn't quite hit me until now. I was about to make changes to my life that felt drastic, final even. When he called my name, I followed him into his office, the walls lined with bookshelves and certificates. He was older, probably in his 50s, with a calm demeanor that made me feel like I wasn't the first person to walk in there with a life to untangle. After a few minutes of small talk, I got to the point. I want to make some changes to my will and financial arrangements, I said, my voice steady but with an edge to it. I need to stop my sister from having access to my accounts. Mr. Lawrence didn't bat an eye, just nodded, taking a few notes. I've seen situations like this before, he said softly, his tone empathetic but matter of fact. Family dynamics can get complicated. People often wait until things have escalated before seeking help. I felt my chest tighten, but I didn't back down. I've let things go on for too long. I can't keep enabling my sister. He leaned back in his chair, folding his hands. It's not uncommon. Sometimes cutting ties or setting boundaries feels like the only option left, and it's usually the right one, even if it's hard. I nodded, hearing the truth in his words. It was hard, but it was also necessary. We spent the next hour going over details, how to change my will, how to make sure Rachel no longer had access to any of my accounts, and how to redirect my assets. I felt a strange sense of relief with every change we discussed, like I was taking back control of a part of my life I hadn't realized I'd lost. By the time I left his office, the weight on my shoulders was a little lighter, and for the first time in a long while, I felt like I was making the right choice. The power wasn't in Rachel's hands anymore, it was in mine. But then a thought came to me as I was walking to my car. I could change the beneficiary of my will, but who would I trust? Who was deserving of what I had worked so hard for? Rachel sure as hell wasn't it. Maggie. Maggie had always been there for me, the one person who never asked for anything in return, the one who supported me without strings attached, my childhood friend, the one who'd never judged me for my mistakes, the one who'd shown up with a bottle of wine and a listening ear when I needed her. I picked up my phone, hands shaking slightly as I typed her number in. Hey Maggie, I'm making some changes and I want you to be the one I leave everything to. If anything happens to me, I want you to have it. I hit send before I could overthink it. Her reply came almost immediately. Are you sure? I mean, that's a big thing to ask. I smiled to myself. I wasn't sure about a lot of things, but I was sure about this. Yeah, I'm sure. It felt right, and for the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of the fallout. I wasn't scared of what Rachel would think or how my family would react. I was doing what was best for me, and for the first time in my life, that felt like enough. I wasn't going to keep letting Rachel pull the strings. I wasn't going to be her backup anymore. I was done being the family's doormat. It wasn't even an hour after I got home that my phone rang. I saw Rachel's name flash on the screen, and my stomach dropped. I already knew what this was about. I took a deep breath and answered, trying to keep my voice steady. Hey, Rachel. She didn't even give me a greeting, just came straight at me. What the hell did you do, Emily? Her voice was sharp, accusing. Why the hell did you change the accounts? I can't access anything. You're trying to ruin me, aren't you? I felt the old familiar guilt start to creep in, but I shut it down. This time, I wasn't backing down. I didn't ruin you, Rachel. I made changes because I'm done. I'm not letting you use me anymore. She scoffed. Oh, great. So now you're punishing me for asking you to help. That's really what this is, isn't it? You're so selfish, Emily. You've always been selfish. I clenched my jaw, fighting back the frustration that was threatening to spill over. I've been helping you for years, Rachel. You've been taking from me without giving anything back. I'm not your ATM or your unpaid nanny. I'm not your safety net anymore. There was a silence on the other end of the line, and for a moment, I thought maybe she'd finally heard me. But then she snapped, You're unbelievable. You never listen to me. All I've ever asked for is some damn help, and you act like I'm the problem. You don't care about me at all, do you? I felt a sting in my chest, but I didn't let it weaken me. I do care about you, Rachel, but I can't keep enabling your chaos. You've used me for so long, and I'm done. You're ruining everything, she hissed, her voice rising. If I can't rely on you, who the hell am I supposed to turn to? I'm trying to keep my family together, and you're just tearing everything apart. You're a bitch for doing this to me. Her words were like daggers, but I stood my ground. I wasn't going to apologize for taking care of myself for once. Maybe you should start taking responsibility for your own life instead of relying on everyone else. I can't keep cleaning up after you, Rachel. You are cleaning up after me. You're just too selfish to see it. She took in a breath, like she was getting ready to say something big. You know what? Fine. If that's how it's going to be, then you can just stay out of my life. I didn't say anything right away, letting her words sink in. I could feel the anger in her, The way she was trying to guilt me into backing down. But I couldn't. Not this time. I'm done, Rachel. You don't get to manipulate me anymore. I'm done. I said it calmly, but inside, I was shaking. There was a long pause, and then she let out a short, bitter laugh. Fine. You want to cut me out? You go right ahead. But don't expect me to ever come back because I'm done too. You're not my sister anymore. The words hit harder than I expected, but I didn't let myself react. I wasn't going to beg her to stay. Goodbye, Rachel, I said, and I meant it. The line went dead with a loud click. I sat there staring at the phone, my heart pounding. The silence in the room felt deafening, like the entire world had just shifted. But I didn't feel relief, not right away. Instead, I felt a mix of emotions: anger, sadness, confusion. Her words had stung more than I cared to admit. But beneath it all was something else, something I hadn't expected. Strength. I had done the right thing. I had stood up for myself. The emptiness in the pit of my stomach began to settle. I wasn't her punching bag anymore. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of the consequences. I had made my choice, and I wasn't going back. I didn't even get a full minute to process the call before my phone started buzzing again. Texts, voicemails, messages, all from family. I had barely been able to catch my breath when the notifications started flooding in. The first one was from my aunt. Emily, honey, please reconsider. Rachel is devastated, she's beside herself, and everyone's talking about what you did. You don't want to be the one who tore the family apart. I let out a slow breath, the words sinking in. Everyone was talking about me, not Rachel, not the years I'd spent being taken for granted, not the way she'd manipulated me. No, I was the one at fault. My fingers hovered over the screen. I knew what was coming next. More guilt, more pressure to fix things, to go back to being the good sister, the one who was always there. Maybe if I apologized, they'd forgive me. Maybe I could fix this, make it all go away. But then, just as quickly, I realized I couldn't. I couldn't go back to being their doormat. Rachel's anger had felt like a heavy slap, but I'd needed it. I'd needed that final push to cut ties, to stop letting her dictate my life, my boundaries, my peace. I had stood up for myself, even if it meant losing her. I wasn't about to let her or anyone else make me feel like I was the problem for once. The buzzing continued, each message digging at my resolve, until finally there was a text from Maggie. Hey, I know things might be rough right now, but if you need a place to crash for a bit, you've got it. No questions asked. I stared at her message for a long time, my chest tight and warm. Maggie. She'd always been there for me. No judgment, no expectations. Just unconditional support. I quickly typed back. Thank you, Maggie. I might take you up on that. I realized, in that moment, how much I'd taken her for granted. She'd been my friend since childhood, and while I'd gotten so wrapped up in fixing Rachel's chaos, I'd neglected the one person who had always been a steady, reliable presence in my life. Maggie never asked for anything from me, and here she was, offering me a place to stay without hesitation. I put my phone down, taking a deep breath, feeling the weight of the decisions I'd made. The messages from my family were still coming in, but they didn't have the same power over me anymore. They didn't hold the same sway. They didn't change the fact that I had done what was best for me. I wasn't afraid anymore. The fear that had once paralyzed me, fear of upsetting my family, fear of losing Rachel, fear of being alone, was slowly dissipating. A sense of peace, a real quiet peace, started to settle in. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe. It wasn't the peace of things being easy, of everyone agreeing. It was the peace that came from knowing I had finally stood up for myself, that I had finally set boundaries. I was still getting messages, still feeling the pressure, but the more I sat with it, the less it bothered me. I had made my choice, and even though it wasn't easy, I knew it was the right one. Maggie's offer was a reminder that I wasn't alone, that there was life outside the chaos, outside of Rachel's drama, and my family's expectations. I wasn't just someone's sister, someone's fixer, someone's emotional ATM. I was me. And for the first time in a long time, I was okay with that. I was sitting at the kitchen table, absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone, when I heard the sound of a thick envelope being pushed through the mail slot. I didn't think much of it, assuming it was just another bill or some junk mail, but when I saw the return address, county clerk's office, my stomach dropped. I ripped open the envelope, the paper crinkling under my fingers. I skimmed over the first few lines, expecting something routine, but then I froze. The letter was from Rachel, not directly, but it didn't take much to see where this was headed. She had filed papers to take full control of our parents' estate. Emily is unfit to manage the property, the letter claimed. It went on to argue that my recent decision to step back from family matters proved my disinterest in managing the estate. My hands started to shake, the words on the page blurring as I reread the sentence over and over. This was it, the final move. Rachel had been planning this, biding her time, waiting for the moment she could strip me of whatever remained of my place in the family. I closed my eyes, trying to calm the storm in my head. My mind raced, replaying everything, every moment I'd given, every time I'd been the one to step up while Rachel took. It was like she'd been working toward this moment all along. She knew exactly what she was doing, using my decision to set boundaries as evidence of my unfitness. I didn't even know how to feel. Anger, disbelief, frustration, all tangled together. The audacity, the cold, calculated way she had used my decision to finally start protecting myself against her to make me look like the bad guy. She wasn't just manipulating me anymore. She was trying to take everything I had left. The thought of it made me sick, but I wasn't going to let her. I sat there, the letter in front of me, letting the weight of it all sink in. I couldn't change the past. I couldn't go back and undo everything I had let slide. But I could change the future. I could protect what was mine. I reached for my phone, heart pounding as I dialed a number I had avoided for too long. My lawyer. I needed advice. I needed to know how to handle this, how to stop Rachel from using the law to clean me out. The lawyer picked up on the third ring. "Hello, Emily. What can I do for you?" I took a breath, the words coming out faster than I meant them to. "I just got a letter. Rachel's filed papers to take control of my parents' estate. She says I'm unfit to manage it. I I need to know what I can do." There was a brief pause. "That's a serious step. I'm sorry to hear it. I'll need to review the papers she filed. But based on what you're telling me, you're not without options." I nodded, even though he couldn't see me. "I need to stop her. I can't let her do this. We'll need to act fast, but there are steps we can take to protect your interests. You're not powerless in this, Emily." I felt a small sense of relief, but it wasn't enough to shake the feeling of betrayal that still clung to me like a thick fog. Rachel had crossed a line I hadn't even known existed. I hung up the phone, staring at the letter again. This wasn't just about money or property anymore. This was about everything I had sacrificed for her. The years of being her fallback, the constant cleaning up of her messes. It wasn't just about the estate, it was about me, my life, my peace, my choices. I had to cut ties. The thought had been lingering in the back of my mind for days now, but seeing the papers in black and white made it undeniable. I couldn't keep pretending like Rachel was someone I could fix. She didn't want fixing, she wanted control. And as long as I let her into my life, she would continue to try to take everything from me. I stood up, folding the letter neatly and tucking it into the trash. The finality of it felt heavy in my chest, but it was also a release. I had tried to be the good sister. I had tried to be the one who held everything together. But that was over. I didn't owe Rachel anything anymore. I couldn't protect myself or my future as long as I kept allowing her into my life. So I decided right then and there, I was done. I didn't need her to be part of my world anymore. And for the first time in my life, that thought didn't scare me. It empowered me. I sat across from Maggie at the small cafe, stirring my coffee absently as I told her everything about the letter, about Rachel's latest move to take control of the estate, and how it felt like everything I had done for her had finally come to a head. Maggie listened quietly, her eyes steady, offering no judgment, just that calm support I'd grown so used to over the years. When I finished, the silence hung between us for a moment, thick with the weight of everything that had happened. Finally, Maggie spoke. "You did the right thing, Emily. You've been carrying her and your whole family for so long. It's time you took that weight off your shoulders." I nodded, still processing her words, still feeling the sting of Rachel's accusations, but also the strange growing sense of relief that came with standing up for myself. It feels like I'm letting go of something I didn't even know was suffocating me. Maggie gave me a small smile. "That's because you were suffocating. You've spent your whole life taking care of other people's messes. It's time to take care of you now." Her words hit me harder than I expected. I had always seen myself as the family member who held everything together, the one who picked up the pieces, the one who was there when everyone else couldn't be. But now, with Rachel's betrayal hanging over me, I was starting to see something different. Maybe being the good sister wasn't all it was cracked up to be. Maybe family wasn't about sacrificing everything for people who never gave back. I think I've spent so much time trying to be there for everyone else that I forgot what it feels like to be me, I said softly. Maggie nodded, her eyes warm. It's easy to get lost in that, but you're not just a sister or a daughter. You're you. And you deserve to be treated with respect too. Don't let them take that from you anymore. I sat back in my chair, letting her words settle in. She was right. I had spent so much time bending to everyone's needs, thinking that was the only way to earn love or respect. But now I realized that I had just been making myself small, making myself invisible, to accommodate the chaos of others. As I looked around the cafe, a quiet peace started to wash over me. It wasn't just about cutting ties with Rachel, it was about reclaiming my life, reclaiming my boundaries, my time, myself. For the first time in years, I felt free. I think I'm finally starting to see it, I said, meeting Maggie's eyes. I'm not responsible for everyone else's happiness or mess. I can live for me now. Maggie smiled, her expression both proud and relieved. Exactly. And don't ever let anyone make you feel like you owe them that. I felt a lightness in my chest, something I hadn't realized I'd been missing. The pressure of constant guilt, the pull of family obligations, all of it was slipping away. As I walked home later, the phone buzzing in my pocket didn't feel as heavy. The messages from family were still there, but they didn't have the power to control my mood anymore. I didn't have to answer, I didn't have to explain myself. I was in control now, and for the first time in my life, that felt like enough.